Hello and welcome to another Digital DJ Tips podcast. The podcast from the world's leading DJ school that helps you become a better DJ or DJ producer. Geek out with us for the next 45 minutes or so when we're looking at things like the fallout from Pioneer DJ's decision to stop some of its older DJ equipment working with its latest software. Whether you can or should use dedicated studio monitor speakers to pump up the volume at parties, and why tune-up gigs could be just the ticket if you're planning on playing a really nerve-wracking DJ event at some point in the future and you're wondering how you get from your bedroom to doing a good job of it. That's all coming up. This, as ever, was recorded with a live audience of Digital DJ Tips' wonderful students, so you'll hear me chatting away and getting feedback with and from them throughout the recording. If you enjoy this, we'd love you to give us a 5-star review on your podcast platform. And if you want to know more about the school, head to digitaldjtips.com. So our first question today has come in fact, it's coming from a few students who are having problems with the new version of Pioneer DJ, or Alpha Theta as they now call themselves, of their Rekordbox program. So their Rekordbox program has been updated recently to Rekordbox version 7. It's the program that you use not only to prepare your music when you want to DJ with Pioneer DJ's standalone gear like pro club gear and that kind of thing, but also in what's called performance mode when you want to DJ with your laptop plugged into a controller. And it's that mode that people are having problems with because owners of some older Pioneer DJ equipment have found that when they plug their equipment in to the new version of Rekordbox, it no longer unlocks that software, and so they can no longer DJ with that equipment in a way they have been able to until now. Now, it's older equipment, so it's the equipment in the old R range, so the DDJ RZ or RZ, the RX, the RB, the RR, if you remember all of these. They were all from kind of the late 2010s. So 2015, 2016, 2017, that kind of era. Also the original XDJ RX standalone, which also works with laptops, has got this problem as well. So none of them, when they plug them into the new version of Rekordbox, unlock it. So they can no longer DJ with it. Unless, and this is the thing that's annoyed people, unless they pay for a subscription, and then it will start working again. So clearly people are wondering why this has happened. And as your trusted source of information about this stuff, we were wondering as well. So we went and had a little dig around, and this is what we found out. Well, firstly, we found out that it's true. We did this by a bit of digging in the Pioneer DJ unofficial Rekordbox Reddit, and also by looking on the official pages, on the official support pages, where they list all the hardware that currently works when you plug it in to their software without you having to buy a subscription, and it's no longer on that list. None of this hardware is on that list. So the users who were reporting it weren't doing something wrong. There wasn't anything wrong with their systems. There was an issue. And so why would that be the case? Well, we went and asked Pioneer DJ directly, and they gave us a statement, which was a typical kind of corporate statement based around, not really giving too much away, but it was very clear. And this is what it said. It said, our products have a life cycle, and we need to ensure that we're channeling resource into new, innovative technologies, allowing us to continue to produce hardware that our customers value and trust. So in a roundabout way, they're saying tough. So next we asked, why has this happened? What could the possible reasons for this be? And then it kind of dawned on us what's going on here. So this is what we think has happened. Now look, clearly this is bad news for users of this equipment. They now plug their gear, which they bought, which needs the software to work, into the latest version of the software. It doesn't work. So it's not good news for owners of the equipment. But what we think has happened here is this. Now, with this new version of their software, and I know this because I was making some updated training for our Rekordbox Made Easy course, which teaches you how to use this software. So actually, coincidentally, just a day or two ago, at the time of recording this, I was making some training and I was learning all this stuff for myself, how it works. The way that more recent hardware from this company unlocks the software so it can work has been changed. And the way it works now is you plug a more recent piece of DJ gear in and it says, do you want to register this DJ gear to your account? So when you open their software now, you log into your account and then that becomes you, if you like. And when you plug some gear in, it registers that gear not to that particular software, but to your account. So what that means is actually quite good news if you're using more modern gear. What it means is that you can presumably, I haven't tested this, but I'm pretty sure it's how it will work. You can go and log in on any copy of this software on any computer anywhere in the world and plug your gear in. And because your gear is registered to your name, it will work, which is cool, although it would have worked in the old way that way anyway. But what's also good is you can then unplug that gear and it'll carry on working. So in other words, all the features that you like about your version of the software that your gear allows you to use will even work when you unplug the gear. So if you want to just DJ with your laptop literally on your lap or prepare a set in a hotel room and all that kind of thing without your gear plugged in, your gear is no longer acting like a massive dongle to unlock the software, right? So there is a reason for this. There is a reason that they've changed it, and what they've changed it to is better. But what I think has happened is this. What I think has happened is that the older gear didn't have the chip or the intelligence, if you like, inside to be able to function with the way they want the software to function now. So they've basically turned off the old way of it working. And so the new software won't work with the old gear in that way. Did they need to turn that off? Could they have made Rekordbox 7 also work with the older gear how it always has? Now, I honestly think maybe they could. I mean, I'd like to think there's a technical reason why they turned it off, but maybe they could. Maybe they just didn't think so many people were using that gear anymore, and so it wouldn't matter that they turned it off. But I do think that certainly for owners of that gear, this is bad news, and you can see why they'd be quite upset. When they were sold the gear, I'm pretty sure there wasn't a card in the box that said this will only be supported until, July, June 2024. And so this has left them a little bit upset. The good news, I guess, if it's not good news, at least it's a workaround, is that if you are an owner of this older Pioneer DJ equipment that now no longer works with the latest version of Rekordbox, it will carry on working with the current version or the older version of Rekordbox, the one you're currently using, Rekordbox 6.8, whatever it was. So you can keep that. And you can also install the new version and you can have them both on your computer at the same time. You can't run them both at the same time, but you can have the new version. So if there's features you want to use in there without your DJ controller, then you can use it and it will still work. It's just that when it comes to using your older DJ device, it won't, and you'll have to kind of roll back to using the older version of the software. They both use the same database, so your cue points and your playlist and all that stuff are still the same on both versions of the software. Of course, in the end, presumably it's going to stop working because Rekordbox 6 will become unable to use on modern operating systems before the current version will, or the one that comes later, which presumably will still work with the current gear, right? So it's not good news it's a step towards the complete end here, but it's not quite the end. However, that's what's going on. And that's what we figured out from talking to our users, digging into it ourselves, and also talking directly to Pioneer DJ. There will be a news piece that you can find on Digital DJ Tips going into more detail about this. So do head to digitaldjtips.com if you want the latest. We'll keep that updated with what we hear, whether they decide that they will roll it back in version 7.1 because of public protest. These things have happened, or whether we get any more statements or any more info on this from our user base. Again, look for the update on the news piece on digitaldjtips.com. So a few of you having other problems with using that software and you're reporting them in the live chat. This is from The Ruckus, who says, I found out that when I connect my Flex 4, which is a more current controller, I keep getting an annoying subscribe box at the bottom right. So what I think you can do to get rid of that box, The Ruckus, is you can register. So you need to have a Pioneer DJ account and you need to log into that account in the software. And then I believe when you plug in your unit, it will say, do you want to register this unit to this account? When you do that, that will all go away. Benny says, I've got both Rekordbox 6 and Rekordbox 7 on my MacBook Air, and I've done it just so I can see the difference in the software. Benny, that's exactly what we did here in the studio when we were making the new training to go into our Rekordbox course. I did exactly the same thing. I had them both so I could compare and contrast as well. Nikos says having a list on their website with the lifetime cycles of their equipment might be a good idea as well. So I agree with you. That's something that I would certainly recommend they do, because it's, if nothing else, it's going to stop the kind of user kickback that goes on when these things happen. And you can understand it. You know, you bought your gear. Who is it? Who are they to say that your gear's reached the end of its life cycle when it still works? I don't think making stuff obsolete in that way, and especially in this day and age when we're trying to be a little bit more careful with the way we consume stuff, is particularly helpful for people. So that's what we found out on that one. The next question is from a student inside one of our courses who asked, should I use my studio monitors for parties? I guess the question is really, could I? Is it okay if I use my studio monitors for parties? Studio monitors are the kind of speakers which are made specifically to use in your DJ practice studio at home or in a studio where you make music. And they tend to be kind of big boxy speakers that require you to position them properly and wire them in properly. You know, they're not like consumer speakers that have got Bluetooth and AirPlay and multi-room and all this smart stuff on them. They're not even like slightly less serious, you know, DJ speakers or multimedia speakers where you maybe have some of those things, or you have a big fat volume control on the front with a headphone socket so you can use them in all kinds of ways. They're a little bit more serious than that. We're talking the Adam Audio type speakers, the KRK Rocket type speakers, you know the type of speakers I mean, the big boxy MDF covered speakers that look pretty robust. They look like you could turn them up quite loud and use them in parties and stuff. So it's a fair enough question, and it's one we get a lot. And it's interesting that you've asked this question now, because I've actually changed my mind, certainly with one brand of speakers, and I think it's just the way that things are going. I'll give you some thoughts as to why. So these kind of speakers are built so that you can use them close by. In other words, you'll set them up in a like kind of an equilateral triangle with your head as one of the points and the speakers as the other 2 points pointing at your head. And they should also be set up so that the tweeters that give you the high frequencies, you know, that kind of sound, are level with your ears. This is very important for making music, but also for DJing, because it means that you get no delay between the speakers playing the music and them hitting your ears, because you're sat very close to them. You're getting a very uncolored sound. You're getting a very clear sound, which makes it easier to hear the music actually as it really is, which is important for producing, because if you don't hear it how it really is, how is anyone else going to hear what you were intending? But also for beat mixing, because you want that sound to come to your ears very fast and very clearly. It makes beat mixing a lot easier. Also just for the enjoyment of it, right? So in those kind of semi-pro studio environments, having your speakers set up and positioned properly and very close to your head is a good idea. So that's what they're really intended for. And that's why they don't have all these extra smarts where you can tweak them in all kinds of ways and all that kind of stuff, and have your TV playing through them and stream from your phone to them and all that stuff. They're not built for that. They're built for you to plug one thing into them, your mixer or your DJ gear or your production master output, right? And then everything else gets done on that gear. They just faithfully amplify it and push it back at you. So sounds like they'd be all right at a party, right? Why worry? Why not just take them with you or drag them into the living room and turn them up loud? Well, we've always said you should never, ever, ever do this. Let me explain to you why, and then I can explain to you why my thinking is starting to shift a little bit on this. So the reasons are very clear, and it came from personal experience. I have blown up, literally blown up, melted, exploded, ripped the cones off, purely by playing music too loud through them. Lots and lots of speakers in my lifetime, because I was young and foolish once, and we all had speakers and we liked to party. And so I know that pushing the volume too high into speakers that aren't made to do it will probably make them go bang. Also, physically, they're not built for it. You know, they're vulnerable. Their cones are exposed. They're not made to be put in places where people could fall into them, or kids could put a pencil into them, or someone could pour beer on them or whatever. They're just not made for that. So they could literally physically get damaged when they're set up in that kind of environment. But also, they're quite hard to position properly. I've already talked to you about how you position them. So you might buy stands for them. You might use the bracket mounts that they often have underneath them to screw them onto brackets, which are then fixed onto a solid wall or surface or whatever. Or at the very least, you might get special shelves for them and so on. So generally, when you drag them with you to a gig, you can't put them on a pole like you can with proper speakers that have got a pole mount on the bottom. So you're going to be compromising immediately when you try and set them up, right? So for all these reasons, it's a bad idea. And also they cost you a lot of money and I don't want you to break them. So that's always been my advice to our students, and it's the advice I would still generally give. However, and here's a big but, my thinking started to change. It all happened with a new speaker from a company called III, who launched a speaker called the Unit 4. Now this Unit 4 speaker's got a few cool things about it, but one of them is that they've got a grill that you can clip on the front, which protects the speakers from anything, because it's one of those grills that's made of metal and just basically makes them pretty bulletproof. And they're quite loud, these little speakers. They can also be kind of put in a few positions. You can have them as little wedge speakers, like, you know, mini versions of those speakers you see guitarists with their foot on at the front of the stage at gigs, you know, so they can they're quite flexible. And these little Unit 4s have got batteries as well. And I won't go into all the feature set, but it did get me thinking, you know what? I could drag these little speakers to a tiny bar where there's 10 people or 15 people there and just play some music on them in public, which I've never thought about a speaker that's basically intended to be used at home in a home studio. And so the thing that's really got me thinking about how things are changing are a set of speakers that I've reviewed just recently from KRK. And they're the fifth generation of KRK's Rocket. Now, you will know KRK's Rocket speakers, even if you don't know the brand name, because they are those black speakers with the yellow cones, right? You've seen them in DJ videos and maybe in DJ studios of your friends and so on. Maybe you even own some. They're very popular. So the KRK Rockets, as I say, are now on the fifth generation. I remember reviewing, I think I went as far back as the second generation in my career in reviewing DJ equipment. Now the second generation were a Class AB amplified, very, very simple speaker. They literally, as far as I remember, had a plug on the back to plug them in, because they have amplifiers built in, these kinds of speakers, a plug on the back to plug some kind of audio into them, and a volume controller, and I think that was it. And they got quite hot in use. They were what was called Class AB amplified, which is the way amplifiers were always built back in the day. And they were clearly only intended to be used at a controlled home environment. I honestly think you'd probably explode them in the way I've been talking about if you played too loud through them for too long because you were drunk and your DJ controller was plugged in, and they won't go loud enough, so you just turn everything up to 11. As Spinal Tap used to say, right? So we're talking many, many, many years ago now. The Generation 5s that I've just looked at are actually very different. So yes, they're the same kind of speaker. If you can imagine basically a black box with MDF covering it, and basically an on-off switch and a power socket on the back, and a big volume control on the back. They haven't really changed. And around the front, you've got the small speaker and the big one underneath it. And, you know, they're not that different, but actually, a lot has changed. So two of the things that have changed. One, they all have what are called digital signal processors, DSPs, built into them. Now this takes any input, and before it hits the speaker itself, before it hits the cones and physically that moves the air to make sound, the DSP will do stuff to that signal. One of the things it does is stop that signal damaging the speaker. Okay, so you can't play too loud through speakers like they might not sound very good if you do, but you're unlikely to damage them anymore, which is a new thing, a newish thing. So that's one thing that's changed. Another thing that's changed is that the way that the amplification works is different. They're now powered by Class D amplifiers. Class D amplifiers use less electricity. They don't get as hot in use, so you're unlikely to burn the speaker out by just playing loud through them. And so coupled with the DSP, that means that actually you probably could abuse this kind of monitor more than you could the older ones. But the thing that's really swayed me, and that I have to be honest, did surprise me when I unboxed these monitors, is that they now come with an interchangeable grill on the front. You can pull off the one that's meant to be used in the studio where the speakers are exposed. They're held on by very, very strong magnets. You pull it off, it does take a bit of yanking, and you can click on a different grill that has got the metal cover, which means that you can't harm the speakers. You can't get anywhere near them. If you try and do it, you'll just bounce off this grill. So the speakers are completely protected. So it got me thinking, why has KRK done this? And I can only conclude that they know that people are starting to use, or have always been using, such speakers in public, even though they're really made for studios. So, you know, there are times when they would make a lot of sense anyway. So for instance, in a DJ booth, in a powered DJ booth where you've got, you know, big PA speakers out on the dance floor, a couple of these would be great, because with the grills on, no one's going to damage them. They sound great. They're very close to you. In a way, your DJ booth is a bit like a studio setup, right? It's just that there's a club beyond where you're DJing. Also, I think for schools and education establishments where, with the best will in the world, people might abuse the speakers, they might work. But then, of course, at home, you've got a pair of these. You've got a few friends coming round. You could potentially drag them out into your living room and have a party. And then if that party turns out to be a bit bigger and a bit louder and a bit more raucous than you thought, I honestly think your speakers will manage. So for the first time ever, really, in advising students, I would say if you have a modern DSP powered Class D amplified monitor speaker and it has got protection for the grills and you can position it properly so it's out of harm's way, then yes, you can probably use them in small house parties as long as you're very careful, which is a big change. I've never advised that. So there we go. The KRK speakers definitely changed my mind. So thank you for the question. So Stephen is pointing out that the III speakers, which is spelled AI, by the way, that I just mentioned, are modular. You can order spare parts for them. You can indeed. So there is a brand that is embracing the longevity of its gear, unlike, it seems, Pioneer DJ with its older DJ controllers. So thank you for pointing that out. Christian in the live chat today says, I'm loving all the nerd talk here. Greetings from Denmark. So Jonathan is asking another question about Rekordbox, which is what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Jonathan says, on Rekordbox now, how can I see which playlist a song is in? Say someone asks for a song. You play it quickly, and then you want to go to the folder where similar songs are. How do I do that? It doesn't seem straightforward. What a great idea. So you searched for a song, but you don't know, because you searched for it, where you found it. I think when you search for it, doesn't it show you the playlist that it was in? I'm not sure about that. They have rejigged the way the library works in Rekordbox, which can be a bit confusing. But actually, I think it's quite nice the way they've done it. The key, by the way, just as a general rule, if you are a Pioneer DJ Alpha Theta, as their new name goes, Rekordbox software user, the key is to understand that you can have more than one full library showing at once. You can have a second library on the right, which you've always been able to do, but you can also have a second one coming in from the top if you want. And then you can have more than one playlist open, which does kind of unlock a few new ways of working. But in answer to your question, I'm really not very sure. So thank you for asking it. And because this is a community, someone in there I'm sure will answer you. Probably ATGR, aka Mixmaster G, who's one of our regulars, who I can see chatting away to you in there right now. So thank you for that as ever, Mixmaster G. So the next question then is from Ryan, and this question actually has given me the chance to introduce a new teaching term that you're going to hear me using from now on because I love it. And Ryan, thank you very much for getting my cognitive spaces twirling away and for allowing me to come up with a new lesson to teach from here on in. And this is what Ryan asked. Ryan was talking to me in our complete DJ course. So for those of you listening to this podcast who are not students or you don't know about Digital DJ Tips, the school, the complete DJ course is our course of our book. Our book is the best-selling book on Amazon on how to DJ, which is called Rock the Dance Floor. And in the book, Rock the Dance Floor, we talk about how to learn DJing following 5 steps. It's a very powerful way of learning DJing, especially with modern gear, and especially if you've ever DJed before and are very confused about the way it's done now. So we break it into gear, the geeky stuff, a bit like what we've been talking about today, music, mixing, performing, and finally success, because DJ is a big broad church now. There's so many things you can do once you've done the first 4. So once you've got the gear, you've got the music, you've learned to mix and you've done a performance, what do you do next, right? You're going to be hooked. So that's the way we teach it. And Ryan was in the complete DJ course, which is our course of that book that teaches DJing following those 5 steps. And Ryan was being a very good student and sharing his goals. We always ask our students to share their goals and put a time frame on them so we know what they're trying to achieve and we can help them best. And Ryan has a goal of playing in his local club in 9 months from now. So Ryan said, that's what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm going to do towards it. Ryan was very clear about the genres he wanted to practice and how long he was going to be practicing, when he was going to be taking his training and so on. So was a very diligent student. But one thing that Ryan missed and that I coached him on and that I want to share with you is he kind of went from 0 to playing in his local club in 9 months. Now, let's put aside whether or not you can get a gig in the venue you want to play in. I'm assuming Ryan can. At that point, though, you're going from literally, I've practiced a few transitions and I've built a nice playlist that I want to use in my bedroom, at home, or in my spare room, or in my garage, or wherever you practice. I've gone from that, where I'm in charge. I can go and get a cup of tea. I can answer the phone. I can just stop and run and have my dinner or whatever. I'm in charge here. You've gone from there to literally being in a public venue, in a commercial venue where people have possibly paid to get in, and you're the one who's got to deliver the music. That is a massive, massive leap. It's like going on a couch to 5K run to get yourself off the sofa and then suddenly leaping to a marathon. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't go from 0 to the New York or the London Marathon as a runner without what I would call, and what athletes do call, and what I'm going to steal from now on for us DJs, tune-up races in the meantime. So I'm going to call them tune-up gigs. So my advice to Ryan, which I'm going to pass on to you now, is if you are a new DJ or you're returning to DJing after a while and you haven't played out for a while, this doesn't apply to working DJs. Working DJs don't even practice. They just play gigs. That's where their practice comes. That's where their innovation comes and so on. Most working DJs don't need this advice. However, if you are not that, and I'm going to presume you're not if you're listening to a DJ school podcast, tune-up gigs between now and your A gig, the one you're really looking forward to, the one you're really working towards, can be an awesome idea. Let me explain what they are and let me explain why they can be an awesome idea. A tune-up gig is not another gig like the one that you're aiming towards. One, you probably can't get it, and two, that's your gig, right? There's no point doing that. Tune-up gigs instead are places where you get to practice a few of the things you're going to need at your A gig. In Ryan's case, the gig in his local club in 9 months. It's going to be very, very different playing there. So you're going to need to get used to the idea that the volume's just so much higher. I mean, you'll find everything rattles and you're like, well, how do DJs play when literally everything's rattling? That's what clubs are like. You're going to find that your tummy is not only nervous, but it's actually vibrating from the bass. You're going to find that you have to set your gear up in a different way, maybe in a different place. You're used to having your laptop on the right. Now you've got to have it on the left. You can't get the angles quite right. Now you're staring down. Now your glasses don't work properly. So why didn't I bring my other ones? Age thing, people. But the point is, there's a lot that's going to be different about the setup. And then you're going to have to plug in. And then you're going to have to deal with your own confidence and your own nerves. And then you're going to have to play for maybe longer than you've ever played, So, and you're going to deal with the crowd. So there's all these things that are going to pile up and they're going to make that A gig, the one you're really looking forward to, the one you're spending 9 months getting ready to play. They're going to make that gig too much of a leap. Like the runner who's only ever run 5K turning up at the start line of a marathon, they probably can't do it, but they certainly don't feel confident about doing it. They're not excited about doing it. They're not looking forward to it. They're dreading it. Hopefully, unless they're absolutely insane. It's the same kind of thing. So how do you get past that? Well, the way you get past that is by practicing those things I just mentioned. In other words, playing at that volume, being in an unfamiliar place where you've got to set your gear up, playing for other people, playing for that length of time, dealing with the nerves, dealing with the fact that the music might change from what you want to play because, hey, that's what happens at DJ gigs beforehand. And you do that by playing tune-up gigs. Now, a gig that features all those things I just said, by definition, probably is your A gig. So this is what we do. We look for small places we can play in public in order to tick some of those boxes. So the boxes are things like volume, playing for that length of time, playing in front of other people, setting up in an unfamiliar DJ booth, playing on unfamiliar gear maybe, playing unfamiliar music or having to alter the music you want to play, dealing with the nerves, so on, right? We look for ticking some of those boxes by playing far less stressful events. Could just be playing for your family in your living room. It could be just forcing yourself to play for 3 hours if you know you're going to be able to play for 3 hours, or you will be playing for 3 hours at this event. It could be playing for just 10 people down in your local bar. Could be just saying yes to a gig you don't really want to play in the meantime because it's practice. So all of these things will allow you to, as you approach your A gig, practice all these little things that are going to happen anyway when you get there that maybe you're not even thinking about. And so just packing your gear away, getting there, and then unpacking it and setting up will take another thing off your list of things that might worry you when you get to your A event. So just like the marathon runner turning up at the start line of the New York Marathon, knowing that their trainers are going to last the distance, knowing that they can run that length of time. You see, one of the things that marathon training programs get you to do as you're getting towards the end is run for that length of time. So let's say you're going to do a 3.5 hour marathon. They'll make you run for 3.5 hours, just a lot slower, so you don't really tire yourself out. But then you know what it's like to be on your feet for that time. It's this kind of thing, right? It's getting yourself in the space so that when you do get there, it's going to be bad enough anyway. You're going to be really nervous. You're going to be worried. You're going to have all kinds of doubts going on. You're going to have cortisol pumping through your system. You're going to be in an uncomfortable place just before that gig. You just are. The wheels will come off at some point, right? So it's getting yourself to the point where that doesn't overwhelm you because you've got a bit of experience. So my advice is, if you have got something that's really important to you and you've put it in your diary in a few months' time, or calendar, as you say stateside, and you are thinking, what can I do to prepare? Don't just practice your transitions. Don't just build a great set of music. Yes, these are all good things. Yes, visualizing what it's going to be like is worth doing, but get yourself out there at some low-key events. Get yourself out there in front of other people and say, what can I do in the meantime that means it's not going to be quite so much of a leap for me when I turn up at my event? And that was the advice I gave to Ryan on that particular question. So let's cross to Lou now, who asks on our live chat, hi Phil, when DJing for a crowd, you can interact with them, of course, but when you're live streaming all by yourself in a room alone, it feels really weird. How do you get over that weirdness feeling of just looking into a camera in an empty room by yourself? Lou says to a podcaster and live streamer who is literally sat in an empty room by himself looking into a camera right now. Well, Lou, I've just given you one of the answers. You have the chat going on with the people who are taking part in your live stream. And the best way of doing that is just to open the comments on your phone on the most popular platform you're streaming to, probably Twitch. And then you can chat to people there and then, and people can give you live feedback. No, it's not the same. But you know what? Let me share a story with you. Back in lockdown, we work with a lot of pro DJs, of course, and a couple of them who were completely gig free, right? Oh no, I've got no gigs. I can't go out and play anymore. They started live streaming, and they said something interesting to us, which is something along the lines of, I feel like I am now closer to my audience because I can actually talk to them, which I can't do when I'm playing a gig because they're too far away from me. So in another way, live streaming your DJ sets can be more intimate than playing real events. Now, obviously, those of us that play smaller events, we can talk to our crowd. And obviously, you can see your crowd, which you can't do. But you could ask for requests. That's another way. You know, what do you want to hear me play? Are you enjoying it? And that feedback is kind of like not quite real time, but it will help. These are things that can help you to get over that. I think also, if you can just have a little crowd with you. I remember back in lockdown when we did between us probably 100 live streams between Ben, Steve and myself here at the school. We just took some cameras home and did them from our balconies and bedrooms and so on. We used to try and involve people who were with us. So my wife and kids would dance around and be part of it. And that to me really mattered. And I know what you mean, Lou, because as soon as I had a little audience, even if it was only my wife and children, it really made a difference. So maybe trying to get some people live with you and then stream the live show for everyone else from there. But yes, I do agree. Live streaming is different. I would say you get used to it. So it's something that you should just stick with because it does have real benefits. I think live streaming is a great thing to add, which is why, of course, we've got our DJ live streaming made easy course, which is a very popular course. We actually made that back in lockdown. It's probably getting to the point where we should remake it now, but it's still very popular, and the training in there is still fully valid. So if you are interested in this, do go and take a look at our live streaming made easy course. This is from Christian. This is going to open up a bigger question, actually. So I'm going to read out Christian's question. You know what I mean, live, and then we'll talk about the kind of bigger, broader picture that this illuminates. Christian says, does anyone out there have any experience with repairs to the Denon DJ Prime 4, which is a very high-end DJ unit? Christian says, I need to fix the play and cue buttons on one side, but when opening up the unit, I'm simply overwhelmed by the amount of tech that you'll have to work through to even get to said buttons. Local service centres are crazy expensive, but question is this an operation you can make yourself as a mere mortal rather than a tech god? So firstly, Christian, I feel your pain there. Secondly, I think you're braver than I am. There is no way I would ever attempt to do that myself. But thirdly, here is the issue, and you've hit the nail on the head. Local service centres are crazy expensive. Now, we've already had a bit of a go at the Pioneer DJ stroke Alpha Theta company, which actually manufactures and sells probably 70, if not 80% of the DJ equipment in use out there in the world right now. They have a virtual monopoly on it. And the other big company is a company called In Music, who are responsible for the brand you talk about, Denon DJ, but also they're responsible for Newmark and for Rain DJ. And so they are kind of the other big competitor. And one thing that I have to say from many, many decades of experience is that Pioneer DJ stroke Alpha Theta are better at maintaining the DJ gear that they sell than anyone else, and that includes In Music. Unfortunately, that includes the manufacturer of your gear, Christian. They have better distribution, they have better repair centres. None of this is perfect. I'm not saying that they are saintly in any way, and no doubt that there would be a decent cost attached to getting the same thing repaired on their gear. But their gear seems to have a better support network. It's quite ironic considering we've just been talking about how some of their gear has just been made willfully obsolete by that same company. But nonetheless, it's something that I've noticed over the years and that DJs have shared with us over the years, that this monolithic company that charges more for its gear in the first place and doesn't innovate very quickly or rapidly or particularly lead the pack in innovation and so on, does nonetheless support the gear that it sells quite well, and I think that's where they win. But the truth is that you should think about this stuff before buying the gear, I would say, because you're in the position now, Christian, where honestly I think the only thing you can do is pay that fee, because I would never start attempting to make those repairs myself, and I don't know anyone who does or could. So yeah, good luck with that one, Christian, and maybe just be a bit more careful with those cue and play pause buttons in the future. You know what, I'm sure you're going to be, especially when you see that bill. This is from Javaman Sanchez, who says, is there an external device that can do stems other than using a computer software or DJ controller that has stems that can be hooked up to a standalone, like, ironically, my Denon DJ Prime 4. So what you want to do is plug something into a DJ controller or DJ unit that doesn't have stems. And for those of you that don't know what stems are, they are buttons that at the very least will give you an a cappella or the instrumental of the track you're currently playing. You're playing the track and you press a button and it cuts out everything apart from the vocal, or it removes the vocal. But also you can do the same with drums and sometimes the bass line as well with DJ systems. It's really cool. It generally requires you to have a laptop plugged in because the laptop runs the software that can do it. And the box that you're DJing on is ultimately just controlling that software. So your question is there something else I can plug in to a piece of DJ gear that doesn't have this in order to do it? And the answer is no, there isn't, because it would have to be tapping into the music you're playing on that gear. Now, you could plug in another DJ unit that can do this and just use it playing through that equipment, but I know of absolutely nothing that can do that, Javaman Sanchez. What I would say is a lot of DJs, having realized this technology is out there, have also discovered that there is software out there that can do all of this ahead of time for you. So what that means is that you can get software nowadays that you can put your music into, so you can take your whole collection if you want to, and you can split it into the a cappella, the instrumental, the drums and the bass line. And you could put all of those files into your DJ software. Now, I don't know anyone who does that. The one thing that they would normally extract would be the a cappella. So you could have all your songs that have got vocals on, you could have the a cappella alongside the song itself in your DJ software. This is really appealing because now you know you've got an a cappella of everything. You've just got to go and load it onto a spare deck. But also, you can then use them on anything. As long as you've got enough room on your hard drive that you're playing from or on your USB stick, you can basically dial up the a cappella without having to use this modern technology that uses crazy processor time and isn't available on a lot of gear, right? So it might be worth looking into analyzing your music ahead of time in one of the standalone software packages that will then spit out the a cappella for you, and just loading those a cappellas and playing them like normal tracks in your DJ equipment. That could be one way around this. And indeed, Joe in the live chat replying to that says, I do exactly that. I prepare mine ahead of time, I add cue points, and I just trigger them on the unit just like any normal track. So I'm going to end off our live questions for this edition of the podcast with a couple of comments that have come in live actually. This is from Mike. Mike is commenting on the question that was asked earlier about live streaming and about how live streaming might be a little bit boring because you haven't got an audience. Mike says, I upload my mixes to Mixcloud. So Mike doesn't even live stream. Mike literally just makes mixes and uploads them regularly to Mixcloud. And Mike says, I really like the feedback from my followers. Importantly, it lifts my mood and it helps my mental health. There's some feedback for Christian as well about where to get decks mended. So in the chat, if you're a Digital DJ Tips student listening to this podcast or watching it, you can head over to the chat in our private group and find out all that information. If you're not a student, by the way, you should be. We have courses for everyone from beginners all the way up to pro, and from big names like Layback Luke, James Hype, DJ Jazzy Jeff, myself, Steve, Joey, who does the production course, and our amazing team here. We literally have courses for you at any part of your DJ journey, whatever gear you use, whatever music you use. Head over to digitaldjtips.com/courses to find out more about that. And actually one more question. Let's squeeze one more in. This is from Apostolis, who says, any tips for promoting new events and getting momentum? I started a night and I tried to promote through flyers and posters and social media, including paid advertising, word of mouth, you name it. I put in quite a bit of work, but it seemed to have a limited effect as 80% of the people who came were friends and acquaintances. Am I maybe not doing it in the right way, or do I need to be patient, and will it build up over time? What a great question, Apostolis. This is something that would feature in our fifth of our 5 areas of how to learn DJing. Success. So, you've got gear, music, mixing, performing, and success. It's how to get that success so you can be performing more. You've hit the nail on the head. You need to stick at it. Now, I've done years and years of promoting events in my time, and you've actually highlighted both the problem and the solution in one post there. So thank you for this. What you've noticed is that 80% of the people there were people you already knew. And that's how it works, because you could advertise everywhere. You could put the biggest advertising budget in the world behind this. But unless people know and trust you, they won't come, because it's their night out, and people are really conservative with a small c on their nights out. They don't want to take a risk. They don't want to see a Facebook advert or get something pop up on their Instagram or see something online when they're browsing around and there's a banner, or even hear something mentioned on the local radio station or whatever about some night they've never heard of. They don't want to go to that night because they've got no idea whether it's going to be any good. And if they've ever been to an empty nightclub, then that's all they're going to be thinking of. It's going to be another one of those. They're just not going to come. The only people who are going to come to your event are the people whose names are already in your phone. Literally, you can scroll from A to Z through your phone. Do they go out? Do they like my music? Can I twist their arm? And you're going to go through and you're going to invite all these people. And even then, you'll be lucky if 20% of them come. But that's how it works. The important thing is to build momentum from that. So some of them might bring friends. So make damn sure you've got the email addresses of their friends, or you find out who they are and you follow them and you get them to follow you back. Build up from that base, from that inner circle of people that you know, and it always starts with people you know. Build out very slowly from there. So it's friends, and then friends of friends, and then friends of friends of friends. And make sure anyone who comes is known to you. Just get them to give you say, hey, do you like the music? I'll send you a free mix. Give me your email address. You know, you've got to be completely no stone unturned. You've got to be religiously going at this, because the people who are more likely to come and drag other people with them are people who know they like it. And who are they? They're the ones who've already been. So you are not giving it long enough here. Stick with it. It could take 6 months. It could take 5 years. I promoted a night myself that we started in 2000. Here's me showing my age. It's actually 1994. Now I'm really showing my age. With my friend, we started our night. It was called Tangled. And Tangled lasted 17, 18 years. It won awards. It got me playing in Ibiza, all kinds of good stuff. But from 1993, 1994 to 1997, it was really, really up and down. We'd have events where we got 200 people in. We'd have other events where literally 20 or 30 people turned up. We learned a lot along the way, but at the same time, the number of people who knew about our event and the number of people who knew it was going to be fun because they'd been grew and grew and grew. And what happens then is that whenever you advertise the next event or the next event, enough people out there, it's almost like a tipping point of people. They know that it's going to be all right. That even when you have a really bad one, it's not 20 anymore, it's 250. And when you have a really good one, it's 600 or 700, right? So you have to get to that point where enough people know about you for your advertising to be effective. Another way of looking at it is your advertising accelerates something that's already moving. But if it stood still because it's a brand new event, no amount of advertising can get it moving. Not unless you can book the biggest name DJ in the world to come and play, which I'm going to suggest you can't. I'm also going to suggest you don't want to, because the whole reason you're putting on an event is so you can DJ, right? I was talking to Joey, one of our tutors here, just yesterday. He got married recently. He played a 5-hour DJ set at his own wedding, right? So I understand when you put on an event, you want to DJ at it. We're all DJs, we all know. So you're doing the right thing. Stick with it is my advice here. That's where we're going to leave it for today. Thank you very much for being a part of this. I hope you've enjoyed the questions. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please do give us a 5-star review or rating on your podcast platform. And if you want to know more about the school and ask a question maybe on the next one, well, that's something you can do as a student. Head to digitaldjtips.com/courses, where you'll find out how you can join us in that way. This is our last live podcast until September. However, we have a podcast mini-series coming up across the summer where I'll talk you through our 5 steps of DJing with extra thoughts on those 5 steps, as we talk about in our global best-selling book on DJing, Rock the Dance Floor, and as we teach in our course, the Complete DJ course. But the podcast series is yours for free, coming up over the summer, and I will see you again in September for more live podcast shows. Until then, get good, get out there, and make the moments. Goodbye for now.